So you're presented here with the overview. I have put it into dark mode just to show you. It can be flicked back to light mode. I'll stick in dark mode for this demo. But you can go in here and it'll show you summaries around Office 365, Azure, on-prem, risk and governance, your tagging statistics, CSP reseller, provider, depending on who you are. But in this case, we're just interested in showing Azure. So one of the first screens you're presented with is a screen showing our tagging. So we have a tagging engine. That tagging engine is here in the administrative section. There's a number of ways you can do manual tags, you can do auto tags, there's ways to search tags, you can create custom tags and rules. So you can say, find me, using maybe naming standards or subscriptions or particular data centers or resource types or etc. You can find particular resources. We'll find nested resources. So it's very quick to identify 20, 30, 40 different resources. And give it a particular tag and multiple things. So maybe you want to go and set up the SAP ECC environment. You set up your tags to find those SAP ECC environments. You can use the existing Azure tags as well, but the intent is for us to recreate our own tags. The entire platform is read-only access to the customer environment. The onboarding is a simple click by an administrator. And with that click, basically there is reader access set up to the different subscriptions within the customer environment. And if the admin hasn't got all the access rights, then we can add in subsequent subscriptions with the correct levels of access. We do support all the methods of CSP. We do also support legacy EA and the new modern EA with MCA and those kinds of things, the Azure modern, Azure plan. So any kind of connectivity, you can go in and see the different subscriptions. You can see the costs around those subscriptions, and to the customer, it doesn't matter how they procured them. So also great if you're transitioning from one to the other, you're seeing the cost together and you don't lose any data when you convert from, let's say, EA to CSP. The data is consistent. It's just a different method of procurement of that environment of those services. So we cover them all, and I'll show you that in subscriptions when we get to it. But it's fair to say you are supporting all of them. We've used the tagging here just to illustrate in this demo environment. You can see here we've tagged things by risk level, by risk impact, by cost codes, by system names, support groups, and these will come through in the different analytics reports. There's easy ways to define them. You can create your own custom as well. Whether whatever you can think of, you could tag environments accordingly. And also to note, this tagging is in collaboration. It's the same tagging engine as used on the 365 side. So if you want to see all costs for the sales and marketing division, you can see both Azure and Office 365 costs. So I'm going to just choose some of these key ones. If I look at by lines of business, I can see there is the costs by lines of business and then the previous cost. Again, this is the consolidated cost of all of their methods of provisioning. Maybe there's some CSP in there, there's some pay-as-you-go, there's some MSDN, and there's some EA in there. Doesn't matter, it's the total consolidated cost. And if I choose a particular period up here, let's say 7 days, it will update that, and I can see I've had a 15% increase in customer services in the last 7 days up there. So I might want to go and see what that is associated with. When I look at it, it'll show me those resources. And I can see, there is this thing called ABS Nova WAF. I can see different kinds of services coming in here and what the cost impact compared to previous periods. So if you're looking at 7 days, it's the previous 7 days. So in this one here, I might say, right, how has this been impacted over here? Location is intercontinental. And I can actually go and click straight in and I can see the last month's worth of cost. Again, doesn't matter if it's EA or CSP. I can see what kind of machines it are, what other associated costs there are with it, what tagging has been done on that particular set of resources is your information. And then I can start seeing things like there is the average CPU over the last month, network in, out, but I can go and see any number of things depending on what it is. It might be write operations per second, etc. This is going to not have the write operations. I'm not looking at disk, but if I was looking at disk, I would see the write operations. That might be network in, out. That's already below, but you get the point. You can drill down and get in there. You can also just tag it and maybe say at this stage here, you want to just add something in here by group type, and maybe you want to say, right, this is a consulting business. You might create any kind of tag and just add the tag in there at the time. So you've always got the opportunity to tag whenever you need to. So that shows you just very quickly your overview. Again, I'm just clicking back here, and maybe I want to show it over 30 days, and maybe through the tagging engine again, I could see it by system name. So this could be used for internal cost allocations. Maybe the business lines of business could be used for business transparency. You want to do internal cost allocations on a monthly basis. There's a concept of a base tag, so you use that to reconcile with your main Azure bills coming in from Microsoft. So one of the tags needs to obviously be consistent with that, and you could use it for your internal cost allocations. It could be by system type, so production, UAT, QA test. This is quite an important one. We use that in our recommendations, so there's a lot more we can recommend around, for example, QA and test environments that leverage some of the Microsoft partner pricing, or maybe optimizing on disk and things like that. But it just again highlights to you how the tagging engine works and how it cleans it up. You have got the technical view of those costs as well. And of course, at the top here, just high level, you can see your networking costs have increased and virtual machine costs have increased over the past 30 days. There is an analytics tab. I'm going to go into that. That gets quite extensive. So this is in overview. So here you will see overview. I'm just going to click through some of them, but you can see that's your overall sort of cost overview. I can go and choose, maybe I want to search it just by a particular kind of Azure tag, or more on a cleaned up basis. I want to look at a particular line of business, and I can see the line of business HQ and finance, and there's a cost just for HQ and finance. Of course, I can do that consistently through the analytics. Again, I'm just going to show you this cost summaries, year to date, percentage increases month on month. Maybe you want to see this by geography or by subscription. You can just, again, it's in the overview section. You might want to go in and have a little bit of walkthrough, some custom tags. You could select here, for example, if I just cancel those two, and look at cost, and I want to look at by, let's say by system tag name. I can go in there, I can click, and I can say, right, I want to get the AI tag value, and I can see there's all the different business names, and I want to look at customer name, and then I want to go to the tag value, and I can see how much that customer name has spent. So again, overview, analytics, different places you can click. I want to see how much I've spent on virtual machines in those particular categories. So financial operations, there is again an extensive set of analytics. I will take you in here, but you can see as the engine's been running for 12 months, it'll actually show you these costs month on month over the last 12 months. I can see where my increases have been, mostly decreased here. There's been an increase on this particular line item here on backup vaults. It's an application called backup vaults, so in the test environment. And you can see what the total is and what the forecasting. There is more extensive forecasting in the analytics, but again, just gives you, if you're on CSP, this will build up over the 12 months. If you're on EA, we'll actually import it straight away, and you'll see the historical 12 months. And then there's extensive analytics behind that, which I'll come back to in a second. Like all good products, we have our own extensive set of recommendations. There's well over 12 or 13 recommendations now. But just typically here, you can see things like you've got reserved instances where you could have savings. You could save 1,495 per month on this environment. You've got some idle services, 11 of them that you can go and look at. You can go and check Azure hybrid benefits. You've got abandoned disk. You've got geolocalized storage. You've got oversized services. Again, I could look at any one of these, show me the idle services. And when I look at them, I can see how much I can save, and I can then put it into a plan. So you can see here, view plan. I'll get to that in a section. So it stops you having to put it into spreadsheets and decide what you want to do with it, but you could just assign a task against someone and add it to the plan. You can view it in Azure. You can delete it in Azure. We don't delete, it's read-only access to our entire platform. So we don't delete the resources per se. But you can go from here straight to that resource in Azure and look at it. There is also the Azure Advisor recommendations. So you can see here on cost what Microsoft recommends. So there is obviously some reserved instances recommendations and how much you could save. There is some right sizing. 3 of them you'll see we do quite a lot more on the analytics side, and just some sort of virtual machine could be again on reserved instances. So you've got some security recommendations you can review, performance recommendations, and operational recommendations. And those get sucked through from Microsoft, just bringing it into a single pane of glass. On the reserved instances, you've got a better view of what your existing is. These are existing reserved instances. Again, if you want to just look at the technical resources behind them, you can see they are running. I'll show you in a minute. You can also see stopped services, etc. But you might want to go and look at that in more detail. The same with hybrid benefit. You can see those without hybrid benefit that could have hybrid benefit applied. So these are typically your Windows type machines as opposed to your Linux type machines. And then with hybrid benefit, this environment won't have hybrid benefit. You need the software assurance for that, but you'll see again in the analytics. And you can get the same thing for your SQL hybrid benefit. When I look at the services, I'm showing you all, and this is a view of all of the services coming in. I have the ability to filter. So I might, for example, say that I want to not have just active, I want to have inactive as well. And you can see these are historically deleted services. So you can click on them and go and get more information on them historically. So workloads like Citrix Farms and things like that, that might go up and down. Ones without a base tag, by subscription name, maybe by type. I want to just see the compute disks and apply the filter. I can see just compute disk. It's very quick to see if, you know, what I want to look at. You want to see by status, maybe the different tags. Maybe you want to do it by department or by device platform. Those will, for example, identify Windows 10. You might have done some tagging there by risk level or risk impact. Let's say if I do it by risk level, let's say high. Here's all my high risk services. There they are listed, and I can just hit the Excel. It will put it into CSV. I can then run scripts and stuff against it. Or maybe use an Azure tag, and I can just type in here, let's say this is for Mani, and there's all the resources that have been allocated through Mani. You can see that Mani coming through in the Azure tag names. So you've just got a capability to really tag as much as you want in here. Also, you have got a metric status. So if I just click on that there, you can see I'm showing actual monthly average CPU here. You'll see we automatically recommend as well as DTU. But you've got a great capability then to see which are your top resource items, lower resource items, see those average metrics, and again, tag against them. Also, as you go through the tagging, you want to make sure all your resources are tagged, so there's an untagged section as well. In subscriptions, this just illustrates, you know, it doesn't matter what kind of backend subscription service you have. You can see here, there's pay-as-you-go, there's MSDN platforms, there's some sponsorship offers potentially that come through. There is things, for example, this here is Azure and CSP. So if you have CSP, you are the provider, then your customers will see those costs coming through automatically here. At the moment, they'll just see the resources if the CSP provider is not connected. But of course, once we connect the CSP provider, the customer automatically sees their marked up prices and that. And on the Azure side, there's the full capability to put a percentage markup in, to connect it through an API onto the provider. The provider has resellers. So on the indirect model, resellers can also do a markup, and the customer sees the actual price that's being charged to them. And they have exactly these same dashboards. And on those subscriptions, that cost will come through. In the next release, shortly, we will show recommended retail pricing here. So even for the non-connected CSP customers, we'll show some recommended retail pricing, which gives you accuracy to a level, you know, maybe 5-10%, depending on what people typically mark up by. And again, you can turn on the monitoring, turn off the monitoring with that. EA enrollments, there aren't any here, but if there was, the customer's EA enrollments would be enabled here. You would see their commit values, how much they've got left, etc. The planning side, you can see all your new sources coming in here, and you can see, okay, there is a new SQL database. I can acknowledge it. So somebody could be reviewing this. Again, read-only access to your environment. So there's no risk of asking maybe a help desk or someone to acknowledge services that are coming in, a basic SOC service. But you can see all the new services coming in. You can click on them, see what they're about, again, without having to go to Azure, or if you want to, you can click there and go straight into Azure if you have the right information in there. I mentioned that there's a resource planner where you can say, I can see here as a recommendation, I want to plan it for next month. You can see here, for example, on virtual machines, the planning action was to shut down and delete. When was the date? It was around this one's clearly overdue. These ones are still on target, and you can maybe add some comments in there and go in there and do a bit more around the planning side of things. So again, you can do it in virtual networks, storage planners, SQL planners. We'll build even more into that. We'll soon have the ability to assign it into maybe a Microsoft plan or something like that. It's some of the new features we're thinking about in the future. The activity logs will show you what's been happening, so you can see exactly what's happening in your environment, maybe in the last 3 months. You want to look at it and you can see that, you know, and this one thing was created just recently, May the 10th, at this particular time, what the subscription was. And actually on the analytics side, we will highlight to you who created that service. So actually we do on marketplace services, on normal Azure instances, as well as on reservations, we actually identify who created the resource in the first place, something that's very difficult to get from the Microsoft route. So you will have all the information on all the sort of recent things. Again, you can use that as a review. The BI analytics is that. I will show you a little bit in there on the infrastructure side, governance side. This is custom. You can go and create custom analytics in here. There are embedded analytics as well, as I've shown on each one. And maybe I'll click on that in a minute and take you into there. But for example, I will take you to a custom one here that we've helped Microsoft create for a particular customer. And you can look here, for example, I want to show you one of the ones at the end here. Let's say you've got virtual machine summaries. You can see here exactly, oh, actually, I'll take one back here. You can see that for a particular machine or a particular virtual name or a particular NIC or a particular IP name, but I can go and choose any one of these resources. I can see what's associated with it. So I can see there that this particular one here, or let me find one here. That's the VM name, that's the network interface, that's the network service group, and that's the public IP name for that particular resource. So it's very quick and easy to see across the board what resources from a governance point of view. This also comes through into our security and governance platform, but I can just show you here. You can see here for Microsoft, there's a particular custom one we created. This is the same view, but just you can see here, you know, these kind of machines have got 4 disks attached. That's got 1 disk. It's got 2 network interfaces. Are you aware of both? Network service groups, are you aware there's you know, 1 or 2 or maybe multiple virtual networks attached to a particular service? None in this case, but good way to audit it and review it. That's a custom report, but you know, some of these are also in our governance reports. So let me just take you through our FinOps section now. So that was sort of more or less the technical side. There is a whole tagging capability. There is also an alerting capability. So you can create alerts, different kinds of alerts. You can define the alerts. And you can see here, for example, show me when manufacturing costs in Azure goes above £150 a month, and then send an alert. You know, so you can get different kinds of tags created on the Azure side. Tell me when a certain metric, tell me when certain utilization, tell me when different, think about any kind of custom tagging that we build. Tell me when a QA environment cost goes above £100, or tell me when there's a new service in a QA environment. So the tagging is also very relevant to the alerting, and that can then be emailed, or it can pop up into these alerts up here, and you can see them up top there as they come through, and you can clear them out. Right, so if I go back just to our FinOps, I did show you the costs by tags. You can actually see, this is sucking it now from Microsoft. You can see the technical tags. So you can see all the technical services, what their costs are, what the total costs are per annum, and what the forecasted costs are. But maybe you want to get more into the analytics. So this is a FinOps analytics capability, extensive. You'll see in here there is, I'm just trying to think, where is it? Is it under cost run rate? This is our UAT environment. So if I go into the my apologies, I'm just going to quickly see if I can't remember if it was, it's not that one. My apologies. Okay, let me go back in here. So here you've got a number of areas to focus on. So this is the overview for financial operations. You can see all of your Azure usage here. You can see it by subscriptions. You can, this is in this case here, it's by by line of business, so the cleaned up tags, but you might want to say, okay, where are the customer services costs coming from? They're coming from these subscriptions, and in that subscription, that is the platform, that is the service. It's called the cloud security platform, or maybe in that one, it's the Power BI gateway service or application, or this one is the HR test system. So you can very quickly drill down as to where the costs are, and of course, where you click on them, you can see the relevant areas. You may want to take us at a different angle. If I just highlight that all there. And now maybe I want to say, where's my virtual machine costs coming in? I can just hover over it, and I can see the kind of services in the virtual machine side of things, and I can see which lines of business those are associated with and the percentages, or I can just select them and get all the filters through. I can also see the increases, decreases, etc. per month. I can see all my reservations coming in, my reservations orders. I can see for a particular reservation how many instances there were. And then there are other screens. All of these get into more detailed screens somewhere else in the application. Marketplace costs, you're not seeing any come through here. We don't have any marketplace costs, but you would see the marketplace costs coming through here as well. You can see the total cost here. You can see the discounted period. So this is very relevant to EA customers. Microsoft may offer them a discount, and actually the discount has not been, they might have got an increase, and in this case there is an increase. This is an interesting anomaly, because when you pay as you go, you actually charged more than than what the recommended retail is. Now that could be because of the year you signed the contracts in and the pay as you go and that type of thing, and that's why some of these figures. But in an EA, this would show you typically your costs are 5% across the board or 7%, and you can get into more detailed areas. You can go and look at your monthly charges, and you can see here there's the different ones. There was a slight increase in this particular month. What was that attributed to? And it just clicks in, it straight away filters for you where those costs came from, the big increases, the big decreases that came through from that. I can just go back. I might want to look at product markups. This is internal if you do product markups, or maybe do look at what has changed from a resource point of view. So I can see there was certain number of resources increased that month, but also a certain number decreased. So net is the result. You can see what has changed, added, removed, and total cost. It's just ways you continually drill down. In many cases, you can drill through and get a deeper level of detail. So that's a kind of overview. You can bring that then into monthly run rates. I'm going to flick through this quite quickly, and you see this sort of yearly view. I can straight away see that, where's my SQL costs coming in, and you can see it is there under other because it hasn't been tagged. Or if I just deselect that, maybe I want to flick it another way and say my UATM is front end, that's how much my bandwidth, the storage cost, the virtual machines, virtually. Very quick all over the areas. Again, there are some areas you can drill down and drill through and then get into the detailed unit. It actually shows you the detailed units down here. So it's very quick and easy to get to different areas of detail. Reservations, just another level of reservations. You start seeing the total build, how much is, so the percentage you've utilized it. And you can click into some of these again. I can't remember which one it is, but you can drill through and then see the detailed costs and the discount details against those particular VMs. Same for marketplace. Forecasting, let me go into that. So we use quite a bit of AI on the forecasting side. So in this case here, you'll see that there's a seasonal algorithm that we use the cognitive services for. So we will do predictions based on seasons. You can see costs here are going to be lower than costs sort of starting in August based on our previous trends. So you could see all the forecasts coming in there, but you might want to see it for the past 3 months projection instead of seasonal. And you know that you're going to get a 10% uplift from Microsoft coming into your new EA renewal, or maybe CSP prices are increasing. You can see then your forecast based on that 10% increase at the end of May 2022, you're going to be sitting at 30.659K and not 27 like was expected. So you got, and you can see where those forecasts are ramping up in the different areas as well, technical areas. Or you might want to see it against quarter on quarter. So just different areas to forecast in. Discount levels, again, this is, you may have very important in very large instance environments where Microsoft is offering discounts or a partner is offering discounts. You can go and see what those discount levels against RRP are. And on EA, and same with CSP, but we bring in Microsoft exchange rates. It's just recently been released to us by Redmond. We will bring in the discount rates and show the actual discounts and that coming in here based on the currency that you are in. You can see the trends. You can see here we've started moving in this environment more and more to RI. So in April, May, we want to try and get to 100%. It always shows that as a 100% target, but we can see we've done 13.97% in April, March, September, January, etc. So it's obviously correct at the end of the month, and you can see how we are targeting it there. There's a general increase in costs on RI, so you can start seeing month on month also how your costs are changing. You can see it as percentages, you can see it in particular values, meter categories, or by lines of business. You can see manufacturing, how much you're spending on the different areas. Top, bottom, different areas, meter categories by types of technical services. Cost change, I've shown you one of those screens. Again, you can right click on these and get into drill throughs and get into detailed meter units. This is an export screen, so any one of these dashboards you can export and get them in there. Azure activity logs, this is a great one because it shows you exactly what's been going on, who's created particular things. So if I look at admin Mani, I can see all the different additions, deletions, writes that have happened. This isn't all logs, there's millions of them, thousands of them, depending on the size. This is key ones around provisioning, who's added, removed, changed particular resources. So these will also be recorded against reservations, and that there's quite a bit of logic in the back end to work out who was the original owner. It's very different to the person that creates the resource that does a write or a delete or something. That's an administrator, but the original owner as well is recorded. And you can see again against resource changes. I've been through that. This is a very interesting one. So we will show you all of your disk, all of your CPU. So you can see here in this case that an average CPU cost in your environment is £22.80 compared to, and this is for cost -1, compared to an industry standard using the Microsoft TCO calculator of 28. So you can see actually that on average your costs are lower in Azure for a lift and shift even than they are in Azure. So of course looking at CPUs here, and you can see where these changes are and what those costs are against them. But we will also be showing trending in here, and ultimately we'll be showing you, we'll bringing in a dashboard here that if you have X amount of on-prem CPU, if you converted that to Azure based on the current cores, this would be your cost projected going forward, depending on which month you migrate them in. So we're bringing out more and more features in that space. In the very similar way we do it on disk, and you can see that the average cost in this case is 8 pence. This is a pence one, so 8 pence for a particular disk, and you can see how those disk costs are broken down, right? So it's by premium storage, standard storage, and which one of those, who's got the premium storage. You can drill through, of course, and understand the P6 disk, P4 disks, and then get more detail of you might want to drill through and see which particular services, etc. have got it. Certainly, last but not least, is the whole cost optimization side. So there's a number of sub-menus here as well. So we bring across a number of recommendations. We create a bunch of our own recommendations. We also look at what Microsoft is recommending. Is a far more extensive set. A lot of the structure here is based around best practice from Microsoft. It's based around cost optimization checklists. We'll be bringing a few more in here as we enhance. So things like recommending where you're using low IOPS on disk, recommending to downsize based on IOPS. That will be a feature coming in shortly. But you can see an overview here of the kind of recommendations. This is cost here. And maybe I want to start with hybrid benefit. I can see the amount of hybrid benefit that currently you're spending $440 on particular VMs. But you might say with software assurance at the moment, I know I've got 100 VMs presently. And at the moment, I've only got 3 cores where hybrid benefit could be applied that would use 22 cores. So there's a cores available, and I've requested 22. So well within those frames, so I can save the £220 there for those cores. So you can do quite a bit of planning around hybrid benefit if they have software assurance in the existing environments. VM resizing. So this is an interesting one. We do the recommendations around VM resizing, but people want to be flexible. Maybe they want to be more aggressive, maybe they want to be less aggressive, and this allows you to do just that. So you can see here for the services at the moment, current cost is £787. If you right sized, it would be between £260 and £394, depending on what kind of average CPU per month you want to look at. And remember, This is a guideline, so get the list, and then you in the tool in the other areas that I showed you in services and that you can go and click on the service and look at all of its metrics to give you confidence that you can downgrade it or upgrade it. But we try and help you here and make it a shortcut. So let's say I want to look at just up to 10%, right? So I can see that if I looked at just 10%, I could go from £319 to £159, quite substantial savings. And that would increase maybe if I went to 20%. I could be doing £255 worth of savings. And if I just select it all the way to 45, I can see the kind of categories. So the bulk of my saves are up to 15%. If I want to be aggressive, I could save £936 just by going over 30% average CPU utilization. Again, in any one of these areas, you can select and down and look at it and drill in through and go and look at the detailed meter units, or go into the left-hand side on services and drill down. Reserved instances. This is showing you there's 13 as identifiable. So you could bring that down where the present monthly cost is $775. You could bring it down to $387. You could see that could be your future cost down here, quite a substantial decrease. You can see where you have been decreasing over time. Currently, there's 8 reserved instances, so we've got 13 more to potentially go. There's the 13 there, right? This is just a bug at the moment. This will actually show the resources, not a bug. The reserved instances are generally applied within the subscriptions, and that this will obviously we need to show which reserved instances, which machines those could be. So that is there in the present release. The Azure workloads then, very big area of optimization. So Microsoft gives you as an enterprise customer the capabilities to procure dev test environments, but also you may want to have different resources on dev test environments. So that's exactly what this does. I go and select what are my dev test environments. So we're using our tagging engine. We identify across all subscriptions which are dev test environments, and it could be very easy. Just choose the subscriptions if you rather want to look at the subscription and not the dev test environment. They are available at the top here as well to select. And but in this case, I know from our tagging, it's our QA and test environments. If I select those, I can see that if I moved SQL databases and optimized those to single standard, I could reduce that here into the UAT environment by £57. I know that storage is an interesting one because we put that in because what you want to do in dev test is you might want to look and say, right, I could downgrade my premium SSD managed just to standard SSD. And generally there's maybe a 50% saving or something like that. So I could save £45 there. And then on virtual machines, I know on these machines, yeah, I can save virtual machine licenses basically, and then SQL Server standard licenses, I can save another £207. So if I work with my dev test environments, I can save another £309 in that environment. And you can see here how your forecasted expenditure would go down if you were doing costs with save. So instead of spending, in this case here, £2,223, if I just did these dev test enhancements, my bill would come down to 1924. So a great way, this is a great area of saving. Again, you've got filters up here. You can do it by business, by region, by support person, etc. Zombie resources, so wastage, idle services, idle databases, abandoned disks, geolocalized storage that's not used, right sizing or shutting down underutilized. So this could come into the area of just downsizing, but also maybe it's sitting at 1%. Is it actually not being used at all, potentially? So you can right click and drill into those oversized services. And then last but not least is just going through that premium disk. So you may want to look at premium disk in general. Maybe you want to do it for a particular service, or maybe you want to do it for a particular area, a different business. You might want to do it for over here by meter category, but you've got the capability here as well to plan and say, look, this premium SSD disk, if I just drill down into it, I've got some P10 disks and I can see where they are and I can see how much I could save if I just brought those down. And remembering I've just selected if I brought UAT and production in here, sorry, I've got to hold the control key down. If I bring the UAT in all those environments, I could save more up there. You'll see there, and this will increase. Again, say in this case, it's still a premium disk are there. In large environments, you'll see that these savings would increase then as I select different environments. So that's generally on FinOps. You'll see very similar type analytics reports and that in the subscriptions and services, different kinds of analytics. We don't have time to go through all of them, but in the EA, in the services side, you can start looking at how your tagging has been used, what lines of business tagging you've got, how those have changed, maybe by risk level, by contribution insights, environment tags. You can look at your Azure tags where you have them, generally a bit of a mess. You can see here all these spelling mistakes and things, very typical, but you can see how created by has changed and who it was created by. And how those tags have changed as well. So you have got the capability there as well, just to go into different things. The last area I wanted to show you is in our risk and governance. So I'm going to go into Office 365 risk and governance. And in governance, we've got, I mentioned before, well over 40 APIs connected. And you might want to see different views. So I want to show you some regulatory compliance. I can see, have I passed the Azure benchmark, the ISO, PCI DSS? I might want to see that just for a particular line of business, or maybe I want to see that just for HQ and finance. And I can see in there, and if I go into ISO 27000, I can see some of the details of what's been passed and failed. So it gives it relevance. So instead of telling a customer, you failed all of your different regulatory compliances, you now are making it far more by system name, by tagging environment. It's important maybe to be ISO compliant in your production environment, but not in your QA environment. That'd be a great example. This is changing. Microsoft used to break out these categories. It's more becoming into a general framework now. So you'll see enhancements and changes to this area as well. You could see Azure policies that are in place, how many have been applied. You've got your security and governance, you've got your regulatory standards map, so FedRAMP, Australian government, NIST, SWIFT, etc. You have this capability to walk through all of these. Yeah. Actually, matter of fact, I think we can just cancel that one. And I can say, okay, on storage accounts, how compliant am I against the regulatory standard? And there you can see I've got how many different compliance issues and that I've got in that standard. So different ways to get in there. You can get into details on these, maybe by subscription or by non-compliant, again by tags, by regulatory standard names up here. You've got lots of ways to filter through and get to those different areas. Also in timeframes, you can change the date periods. Infrastructure and security, I showed you some earlier. You can start seeing summaries across infra and security, but it's a great way to see your overview, where you are from a data center point of view, top resources. Look at the way the tags have been put in here. This is the Azure Advisor and what's coming through from that. So particular advisors from Azure, all your security alerts coming into the platform from different dashboards. Your compute setup, again, drilled into more details. What are the IP of these computes? You can right click, you can export. Networking, of course, very key. IP addresses, IP address ranges, what subnets they attach to, what virtual networks they attach to. Network service groups, again, seeing what ports are open from a security point of view. You can see by destination ports, by security rules. Again, filtering in different areas, selecting any that filters above. Role-based access control, seeing what RBAC is in place, and the same thing for RBAC service principals, but you can also see it by different kinds of reader accounts. So who's got a reader account, you can see them up there, and where the reader account has been assigned to. So it's a great way from a compliance review perspective, or same thing on service principals. So service principals are often created. IaaS usage and storage limits, again, a very key area. So what you're seeing here is people don't realize it, but there are limits on IaaS, and you can see, have you reached those limits yet? The current value on network watches, for example, total regional vCPUs, and you can stroll down here and start seeing some of the other areas. You've got 27 public IP addresses, maximum allowed 200%. You can see, yeah, D2, V2 family on this particular subscription. The usage limit is 30% of that particular family. You're at 6. So you see, sometimes those thresholds can be exceeded, but you might be starting to get some funny issues. It's a great way, again, to make sure you're in compliance. And why, in this case, there's 14 is a great example. Regional VCUs on UK South, there's 14 when the limit is 10. So go and review that. And then same thing for IaaS idle resources. This is the basic IaaS resources, disk, NIC, and public IPs is the kind of stuff Microsoft pushes you, not that AI intelligence I showed you before in the DevOps side of things. I think that high level gives you an overview on the Azure side.